Welcome to another edition of E.W. Jackson for America. Great to be with you again this morning. Let me run through quickly the things I spent a lot of time on yesterday, but I won't do that this morning. I won't bore you with additional details. Please be aware, Stand Awards Dinner is coming up on June the 11th. Mark that date on your calendar. I hope you will come. Wherever you are in the country, I hope you will come. Stand Awards Dinner, June the 11th at Cornerstone Chapel in Leesburg, Virginia. As of tomorrow evening, 5:30 p.m., I will debut as a new host of Truth and Liberty on Andrew Wommack Ministries on gospeltruth.tv and other networks around the country. That's tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you tune in for that. And then please don't forget, we are now formalizing our Stand network of churches. If you are interested in becoming a part of the Stand network of churches, and you can go to our website, and I think it's all up there now, and see what the benefits are if you are a pastor. And I'm going to be approaching a lot of pastors personally, but if you can go and see what the benefits are, and then there's an application form to sign up. It's very simple, but we'd love to have you as part of our Stand network of churches. And then finally, on Monday, we released Exodus Now, the sequel. I've been watching the numbers. Of course, they're not that high, and I didn't expect that they would be, because now, of course, we're being shadow banned and limited and all of that. But nevertheless, we're going to keep pushing it out there. We're probably going to invest something, depending upon what we get in the way of donations. We're going to invest something in pushing it out there. We're going to take that 10-minute video, we're going to break it up into smaller parts as a way of helping to market it. And we're going to make a slight adjustment too, because I have gotten some feedback on the music bed being a little bit too loud. So I want to make it easy for people to hear it. So we're going to tamp that down a little bit, tamp the music down a little bit, the music bed a little bit, so that people aren't hearing the music kind of interfering with the things that I'm saying. So we'll make some slight adjustments there before we go all out in terms of boosting it, but it's out there, and I'm already getting tremendous feedback from it. Interestingly, I haven't gotten any attacks as yet. And what that probably means is that it has not gone out far and wide enough yet to awaken, spur all of my detractors out there to go after me as yet. But that'll come. It'll come with the territory. So wanted to get that out of the way. Let's see, this is Wednesday. Yesterday, as predicted, the elections went pretty much the way I expected them to go. Trump is already the nominee, and it's a done deal. Moreno in Ohio took down a major victory, apparently surged ahead after the Trump nomination, Trump endorsement, and that tells you something about where the people of Ohio are, at least where the Republicans are. It is Trump country, and I think, frankly, that Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States. And I can't guarantee that, obviously, and we don't know what's going to happen. I don't share the view that some of my friends do, that there's going to be a substitute at the Democrat convention, and that Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee. I don't share that view. But let me just say, I don't rule it out. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't rule it out. Because who knows what these people are plotting behind the scenes. I don't know whether you caught this, but I thought it was very interesting that that Barack Obama shows up at 10 Downing Street kind of mysteriously for some kind of meeting, and nobody knows what the meeting was all about. He met with the Prime Minister of Great Britain for an hour. You don't go meet with the Prime Minister of Great Britain for an hour for nothing. There's something. That wasn't a social call at all. That wasn't a social call. And it's interesting the way they showed the film of him. Barack Obama travels with Secret Service, but it was interesting the way they showed him walking alone. So I guess he was within the compound or something, or protected some way, and the Secret Service clearly, they had him in eye shot. You can rest assured, and probably were not far from him. But the way they filmed him, him walking down the street alone and knocking on the door by himself. Something's going on. I don't know exactly what. By the way, this is just a complete aside. And forgive me if this seems a little bit trivial or petty. But I looked at the pictures of Barack Obama, and I noticed that he was wearing his trousers about, I don't know, 2, 3 inches, maybe 4 inches above the shoe. You know, like he had on high waters. Men don't wear high waters. Their trousers go to their shoe. A well-dressed man, their trousers go to their shoe. So you make of that what you will. I've got my own theories about it, but I just thought it was very interesting that he had his pants jacked up where you could see his ankles and the trousers were. At any rate, so let me move on. Let me move on. I don't even want to spend any time on that. I just threw that out there. Okay. Here's what I really want to talk about. You know, we go back and forth. You probably do as well as I do, depending on the issue, sort of between other people who are trying to destroy our country or who are destroying our country incompetent, or are they intentional? And you know, sometimes we treat it like it's intentional, and sometimes we talk about it like, you know, how can you be so incompetent? But you know, there are times when there's clearly no doubt that it is intentional, that their motives are evil and wicked, and they know what they're doing. Now, and the hypocrisy knows no bounds. And I said that because, of course, Donald Trump, I just predicted that Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States, barring unforeseen developments. I believe that he will win the White House back. And I'm going to certainly be doing everything in my power to help him to do that. And I trust you will too. But the mainstream media and the Democrat Party will stop this man by any means necessary. Now, I don't believe, as some might, that there is any kind of conspiracy to kill Donald Trump or anything like that, at least among politicians and the Democrat Party and officials and that kind of thing. However, I do believe that the level of hatred, venom, hysteria that is being lodged against Donald Trump will certainly stir up the nutcases to believe that killing Donald Trump, assassinating Donald Trump, would be doing the nation a favor because they would be saving us from a future Hitler. I mean, I've said, look, Donald Trump has been likened to Adolf Hitler. He's been likened to Osama bin Laden. We've been told he's a tyrant, that people are going to be put in concentration camps, all of this hysterical nonsense, okay? Which, by the way, I don't believe not one iota of it. It's nutty. If I believe for one moment, I don't care how conservative somebody might appear, Donald Trump or anybody else, but if I believe for one moment that Donald Trump or anybody else was a budding tyrant, I would be absolutely, categorically, unequivocally opposed to that person. I don't care if they agree with me on 99% of the issues, but had aspirations. But what the country really needs is, the country needs a dictator for a while. That person would become my mortal enemy. That is not Donald Trump. But they want to stir people up to believe that it is. that Donald Trump means the end of America, that Donald Trump is going to establish concentration camps. You know, like Robert De Niro said, he's coming to get me. You know? And frankly, look, my guess is that Donald Trump looks at Robert De Niro and just laughs at that buffoon. Because that's what I do. I just think, poor man, you know, great actor in his day, but a complete nutcase. Poor thing. Needs God, needs redemption, because he's just so full of bitterness and anger and hatred. In fact, I think there's more danger of Robert De Niro doing something to Donald Trump than vice versa. Because remember, Robert De Niro has said things like, I'd like to punch him in the face and all. I mean, he said some crazy things about Donald Trump. And these other Hollywood people, who was it? Madonna, who said that she wanted to blow up the White House. I mean, so look, these people just flat out lie. Some of them, I think, really are caught up in the cult hysteria, but some of them just flat out, they know they're lying. Or let's put it this way. Maybe they've gotten to a point of such self-deception, you know, because I think you tell a lie over and over and over and over and over again. And Jesus said, what comes out of the mouth defiles a man. That lie gets into your heart. And after a while, you become so delusional that you actually believe the lie. But it begins in falsehood and deception and manipulation, and it never leaves that territory. So here's what I'm getting to. The mainstream media has been reporting on this bloodbath comment that Donald Trump made. I don't know whether you heard it or not. But it is so obvious. Because basically, well, here's what the media is saying, that Donald Trump is promising a bloodbath when he gets elected. You know, so I guess Donald Trump is going to unleash the American military on the American people and all of his enemies, and there's going to be a bloodbath. You know, I can't begin to express how disgusting I find it that people have descended to such depths of the abyss that they're willing to say such things with a straight face and act like they're somehow informing people or warning people or telling people. Donald Trump was talking about automobile trade with China. Yeah, folks, he wasn't talking about getting elected president. He wasn't talking about his plans for the country when he got elected president in general. He wasn't talking about getting at his enemies when he's elected president, if that would happen. He wasn't talking about getting vengeance or payback. He was talking about the auto industry and trade with China, particularly with regard to EVs, electric vehicles. And he was saying that he's going to put a big tariff on China's electric vehicles because he doesn't want those vehicles sold in the United States of America. He said, because if I don't get elected, and he was talking about the automobile industry, it will be a bloodbath. He was talking about an economic meltdown in the automobile industry, not blood in the streets based upon his election. And you know how people can take that and twist that into Donald Trump's threatening a bloodbath in the country. I don't know whether to lament that you're actually that stupid, maybe, that you didn't read the context. You're on the news, you're commenting, and you actually did not bother to read the story, to read his comments in their totality, in their context, whether to weep that you are just that incompetent, or whether to just be flat out angry and incensed that you're that wicked and that twisted, that knowing the truth, you intentionally twisted it to try to stir people up into believing that Donald Trump's promising a bloodbath for the country when he gets elected. You know, just as God and the Holy Spirit are the Spirit, is the Spirit of truth, the devil is the spirit of lies. And, you know, I hope you all understand, I don't mean to over-spiritualize things, but I do mean for you to, because I mean, that's the nature of this program. This program is unlike any other because I'm coming to you from a biblical worldview and others are coming to you maybe from a political or ideological or sociological worldview or racial worldview or whatever it is they're espousing. I'm coming to you from a biblical worldview. And when you see lies like this, here is what you can absolutely know. It is the spirit of Satan behind it. It is demonic. Because what did Jesus say about Satan? He said he is a liar and the father of lies. That means that Satan is the inventor of the lie. He is the one who twisted truth into something that was not a reflection of reality and sold that to people, and initially selling it to angels. The same thing that Satan did to Adam and Eve, he did first to the angelic host. He got a third of them to go along with him by telling them, well, has God truly said, is God really for you? Is God really, God doesn't really want you to, God, basically, we don't know exactly what lies he told, but we know he had to tell a bunch of lies. Excuse me, folks. He had to tell a bunch of lies in order to get the angelic host to go along with rebellion in the perfect, idyllic condition of heaven. I mean, it was perfect. It was idyllic. There was not a single thing wrong in any way. And he got angels who had everything they could have at their disposal and were living absolutely wonderful lives. He got them to go along with disrupting all of that and turning heaven into a war zone. Jesus said he is the father of lies. And then he gets into the Garden of Eden and he does exactly the same thing with Adam and Eve. He turns the garden from being a place of peace and love and joy and total pleasure of a holy and righteous nature into a war zone. But now it's a war of him versus Adam and Eve, and him co-opting Adam and Eve and ultimately turning them against God. Now it's a war between God and mankind, a war between the devil and God. I mean, this is what he does. So what we know then is the Democrat Party, these journalists, these people who have no problem at all trafficking in lies are of the devil. In fact, that is exactly what Jesus said to the people who were opposing him. He said, you are of your father, the devil. Here it is, John 8:44. He said, why do you not understand my speech? He says, because you are not able to listen to my word. Why? Because they hated the truth. He said, you are of your father, the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and I said war, right? He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources, for he is a liar and the father of it. Now there it is. John chapter 8, verses 43 through 45. Well, really 43, actually verses 43, actually just verses 43 and 44. John chapter 8, verses 43 and 44. That's exactly what these people are. They are of their father, the devil. And the deeds of their father is what they want to do. And they are murderers just like he was a murderer. They may not murder you physically, but they want to murder your character. They want to murder your livelihood. They want to murder your relationships. They want to murder your reputation. They want to kill you. They want to destroy you. And by the way, they're not only after Donald Trump, they're after everybody in this country who has a Judeo-Christian perspective and worldview. And I really believe this. Donald Trump is just the biggest target in front of them, but their primary target aside from Donald Trump is Christians. That is their primary target. Let me give you one more case of this. Donald Trump is suing George Stephanopoulos because George Stephanopoulos has alleged, in fact, said on the air that Donald Trump had been found liable for the rape and defamation of E. Jean Carroll. He was not found guilty of the rape. He was not found liable, I should say, of the rape of E. Jean Carroll. He was not. But George Stephanopoulos came on television and said that he was. He was not. He was found liable for defamation because of things that were said about her. But he was not found liable for rape. The jury didn't find that claim credible. But George Stephanopoulos came on and said he was. He lied. Again, this is supposed to be a top journalist, right? Of course, he's not a journalist. He's just a political hack. But he's masquerading as a top journalist. You would think that he would make sure that his staff checked the facts about the outcome of that case before he opened his mouth and spewed that lie into the air. But they don't care about lying. In fact, that brings me to Proverbs chapter 6. I've been talking a lot about wisdom, right? Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16, going on to 19. These 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him. A proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, there's abortion, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among brethren. You know what? That entire passage is really all about lying and deception. It's really all about lying and deception. I mean, what's the proud look about? It's about trying to convince people of something that's not true, namely that you're more than you really are. Looking down on others and wanting others to look up to you when you really don't deserve it. That's a lie. Hands that shed innocent blood. How do you shed innocent blood? You basically deceive people. I mean, abortion, forgive me, I'm calling it, the killing of an unborn baby is based upon the deception and the lie to the mother that this is going to be a good thing. It's not. It's an evil thing. It's a wicked thing. It's a sick thing. It's a disgusting thing. But you deceive the mother into believing it's a good thing. How do you devise wicked plans? Wicked plans are always based upon deception, aren't they? Of course. And the lie that somehow these wicked plans are going to produce something that is worthy of having. Feet that are swift in running to evil. I mean, when people run to evil, what are they convinced of? They're convinced that this evil is going to somehow do them or someone else good. It's all based on lies. A false witness who speaks lies. One who sows discord among brethren. How do you do that? You convince people of lies. You get them at each other over things that aren't even true. Have you seen that happen? Of course. sowing discord among brethren, people who ought to be on the same page, and instead they're at odds with each other. This is all demonic. That's what I'm getting at. This is all demonic. This is all rooted and grounded in spiritual warfare, folks. Don't forget that. We are good stewards of our nation and its political apparatus. We care about the Constitution and the rule of law, and we need to make sure that these things are honored, that they are respected, that they are adhered to. But this battle we are in is ultimately a spiritual battle. And the primary weapon of Satan is lies. And our primary tool is truth. Lies put people in bondage. The truth sets people free. That's what Jesus said. You shall know the truth. The truth shall make you free. And if the truth makes you free, what do lies do? Lies put you in slavery. And by the way, that's exactly what Exodus now gets to, how the Democrat Party is still practicing slavery in the black community. Still doing it. You check it out and see for yourself what you think. So I wanted to get that out there. Now, one other thing I want to cover. Look, in my humble opinion, there are three institutions that must be brought down if this cultural revolution is going to be complete. And they've got most of the institutions now. But even if they have most of the institutions, if they don't get these three, they can't win. Okay? Because they've got the schools, they've got the universities and colleges, they've got the entertainment industry, they've got the corporate world, they've got all that. But here's what they must have in order to ultimately win this battle. They must have the military. Why? Because the military is a repository of very traditional ideas. Remember, I talked to you, what's today? Wednesday, last week, about West Point getting rid of duty, honor, country in their mission statement. They don't want those words. Let's get rid of that. That's antiquated. We don't need that. What are they going to replace it with? Army values. What does that mean? Who knows? It probably means promoting homosexuality among the ranks. It probably means making sure that we have an adequate number of drag queens to parade around the base and around the ships, and or forgive me, I'm talking about the Army right now. But to put basically dress men up in women's clothes. I mean, I don't know. I think I shared the story with you yesterday that one intelligence officer was arguing that cross-dressing makes you a better intelligence officer. And here again, talk about lies. Being a drag queen makes you a better intelligence officer. I don't know. If you can fathom the logic in that one, let's just call you a genius, because, I mean, that's so preposterous and so ridiculous that you just throw your hands up. You don't. What do you say to people who think like that? Because they're beyond rationality. So the military. Here's the second institution they have to co-opt, and you see them going after it: the family. The family. Because you see, the family is the place where traditional understanding of right and wrong, good and evil, moral principle is transmitted from one generation to another. And if you can co-opt the family, you can subvert the family, you can turn the family into an institution of perversion, you've got the culture pretty much. I want to share with you a story that just came out. But before I do, I want to tell you, when I was practicing law in Boston, I would often do pro bono cases, which means I would represent people, at no charge to them because I knew they couldn't afford to pay me anything, and because maybe I was interested in helping them and interested in the case. And some of the pro bono cases I only did a handful of them, was defending people against the Department of Social Services, which came after parents because they were abusing their children. And I found that I represented people in cases where those parents were not at all abusing their children, but the Department of Social Services said they were, because they used corporal punishment. And again, I would never support a parent actually abusing a child or harming a child, beating a child so that that child is actually harmed. But I do believe that corporal punishment is one of the tools in the toolbox of parents in terms of disciplining their children. I've always had the view that it should be used rarely and sparingly, but that it should not be discarded. And it is completely lawful and moral for a parent to use it, to spank a child, to tap a child, to do whatever needs to be done to get a child's attention and make them feel a little discomfort over something that they've done wrong. But again, use it sparingly, use it rarely, because if you use it all the time, it becomes of no effect. I mean, it's just part of the landscape, and then you run the risk of sowing some things into a child that you really don't want to sow in them in terms of the use of force as the ultimate answer in every situation. But again, I believe that corporal punishment is perfectly appropriate and perfectly moral to be used. Well, the Department of Social Services didn't believe that. So in one case, for example, a child went to school and the child had injured his finger. And when I say injured his finger, believe me, I'm talking about a family I represented, okay? So I know what the deal was. And there's a little mark on the kid's finger with that apparently happened. The parent didn't put it there. Let's put it that way. But the child may have thought the parent did it there, but put it there or something, because the child had gotten a spanking. And so when the child went to school, the teacher noticed the mark for some reason and said, "Oh, what's that mark on your hand?" And the child said, "Oh, my mommy beat me." I had to go to court to defend that parent's right to keep their child. No record of abuse, no scars, no bruises, no hospitalizations, nothing like that. I know, because again, I would not represent people who I thought were really harming their children. And they were going to take that child away. And I had several cases like that. And by the way, and this is the one I found most shocking. Now, this is in Massachusetts, and folks, this is back in the late 80s and 90s. Folks, that's over 30 years ago. Of course, Massachusetts was always ahead in the wrong way. In fact, they're so far ahead, they're behind, don't even know it. One of the factors that they considered in trying to assess whether the case, because what would happen is, so the teacher sees this mark, and here's the child saying, "Well, my mama beat me." The teacher then files a claim, or I forget exactly what they call the claim, but basically you file a claim with the Department of Social Services that there is potential abuse going on. The Department of Social Services must then investigate to determine whether that claim is substantiated, meaning that do we find evidence that this claim is actually true. So one of the factors that they look at to determine whether a claim is substantiated in terms of factors indicating abuse, right? Because it may be that you can't find any specific evidence, so they look at factors operating in the home. One of the factors they looked at was if a parent, quote unquote, forced their minor child to go to church every Sunday, they considered that to be indicative of abuse. I kid you not. I kid you not. I had to make First Amendment claims against the Department of Social Services to get them to relent, to back off on using that as a factor indicating abuse. Because you know those Christians, they make their children go to church. Yeah, you live in my household. We worship God. You're going to church. When you become an adult, you do what you want to do. I hope you will serve God. But while in my house, we're going to church. Ooh, that's abusive. Please. So this case is now, and by the way, there's no telling who this is liable to touch. But there is a federally funded home visiting program called the Maternal, Infant, and Early Childhood Home Visiting Program that's intended, it's a federal program now, that's intended to promote positive parenting and to combat abuse. Now, of course, the people who would be the likely recipients of these visits would be people who probably receiving some kind of federal assistance. But one of the things that they look at to determine whether abuse is happening in the home and whether the, as they put it, the parent is engaged in positive parenting is whether gender diverse children are denied the right to play, dress, and act as they would like. Now, wait a minute. So get this. Positive parenting, from their perspective, is to allow your child to play, dress, and act. And I'm quoting. This is in the regulation. The right to play, dress, and act as they would like. Well, then you don't need a parent. If you can play how you like and act how you like, not to mention dress how you like, what do you need me for? You know, you can raise yourself. Because basically what they're saying is the parent should defer to the child, not the other way around. This is so backwards, folks. This is why, you know, the word progressive, it is such, that in itself is a lie, it's a deception, because what they're really doing is regressing. By the time they finish regressing, we'll be living the way the ancient Greeks lived in the, excuse me, in the 6th, in the 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th centuries BC, where men regularly had sex with young boys that was considered to be perfectly normal and acceptable. That's where the progressives, I think, are taking us. Because, of course, if a child, I say, if a child can determine, and obviously it goes then into the family must accept the child's gender expression. You know what that means. If the child says, well, I'm a boy, I have a boy's body, but I have a girl on the inside, the family has to say, oh, okay. Great, Johnny. What would you like to be called? Well, I want to be called Jane from now on. Okay, no problem, Jane. What would you like us to buy you? I need you to buy me some dresses. Okay, Jane, let's go out and buy you some dresses and buy you some girls' shoes and get you some lipstick and makeup and all that. I said the family. This is a federal program that is intended to undermine the vitality and integrity of the family, because it is intended to substitute these bureaucrats' sick, perverse values for the Judeo-Christian and biblical values that most families have lived by in this country and for centuries before. Certainly Christian families have. And in our country, the entire country has, because the country is, culturally, America is a Christian country. We don't have an official religion, but culturally we are a Christian country. We're not Buddhist, we're not Hindu, we're not atheist, we're not Zoroastrian, we're not, well, you name it. Go down the list. We are a Judeo-Christian nation. We are a nation steeped in Christian culture. This is seeking to undermine that. So I said, the military, the family, you know what's last, don't you? The church. Because if you get the military, you get the family, you get the church buying into these perverse, godless, which they call woke. That to me is a little bit too sanitary. These are evil, godless, degenerate, depraved values that these people are pushing. And if you get the military buying into it, which they're trying to do, the family buying into it, which they're trying to do, and then you get the church buying into it as opposed to militating vehemently against it, forget it. We're done. We're done. That's why we're formalizing the Stand Fellowship of Churches, because we're trying to assemble a group of pastors and churches, Fellowship of Churches and Ministries, by the way, pastors and churches and ministries that are committed to upholding biblical worldview, that are committed to adhering to the word of the living God. Because without that, society is doomed. Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world." What does salt do? Salt preserves. What does light do? It illuminates, and it also enlivens, doesn't it? None of us could survive without the light of the sun. The sun is essential to our survival. We need light to survive. Our bodies thrive on it. Now, Jesus, of course, was using that analogy to tell us that we are illuminators. We are life givers. We are life enhancers. By what? By proclaiming the truth, by modeling the truth, by living out the truth. So that no matter what, forgive me for looking at my watch, I guess I should be looking ahead of me, but I've only got a couple minutes. That no matter what anybody says, no matter how many doctors, lawyers, politicians, college professors say the killing of an unborn baby is a good thing, that is a lie, and the church must stand up and say it is an evil thing, it is a godless thing, it is a blasphemous thing, it is a wicked thing, it is a twisted thing, it is a thing that brings terrible consequences. You are sowing the seeds of murder, and you will reap the seeds of murder. You are sowing the seeds of death, you will reap the harvest of death. You are sowing the seeds of killing, you will reap a harvest of killing. You reap what you sow. And no matter how many times they tell us and tell parents and tell everybody else, oh, no, this is a boy born in a girl's body, a girl born in a boy's body, that's a lie. You are either born male or female, unless you happen to be a person who's truly got birth defects. But that's very, very, very rare. I think they call them hermaphrodites, but that's very, very, very rare. That's part of the sin's pollution and wounding of creation. Birth defects of all kinds, and that there can be sexual birth defects in terms of how a person is actually constructed in their mother's womb. But that's extremely, extraordinarily rare. I've never met such a person. Have you? No. But the idea that you can be a boy in a girl's body or a girl in a boy's body is a lie. You are born male or female. You're either one or the other, and you cannot change from one to the other. You cannot transition from one to the other. The only thing you can do is perform Frankenstein monster-like intrusions on your body chemistry and your physiology to try to satisfy some delusional idea that you are in the wrong body. It's a lie out of the pit of hell. Now, somebody's got to say that, folks. I know YouTube won't like it. I know Facebook won't like it. I know there are a lot of these big tech people who think, oh, how can you can't? But that's what they mean when they say my content is harmful. Now, I think what's harmful is to be injecting kids with a bunch of hormones before they even reach puberty. I think what's harmful is involving kids in a whole bunch of sexual stuff before they even know what sex is. And what's harmful is cutting off the breasts of teenage girls and the genitalia of teenage boys because they somehow become deceived into believing that they're in the wrong body, and mutilating the body that they've got is the way to reconcile those things. I mean, folks, this is wickedness of a depth that is hard to fathom. It's that, talk about the mystery of iniquity. There it is. How can human beings bring themselves to a point, or allow themselves to get to a point where they think that the mutilation of another human being, particularly a child, is a good thing? Well, exactly the way we started out. Lies, deception. Okay, I've got to go. God bless each and every one of you. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow afternoon at 5:30 p.m. I'll be with you on Truth and Liberty. In the meantime, stand up, step up, speak up, refuse to back up. Because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit. Because we are on God's side.